Welcome to another episode of the RVing Life Chats, bringing the best of RV and RVing gear shopping tips to you directly from the mouths of experienced, been there, done that RVers. Today's show is sponsored by RVingPlanet.com. And now, here's your host, Kevin Wallenbeck.
All right, welcome to the show, everyone. Glad to have you back for episode number 2. Today we have with us Michael Vallen. He is the founder of the vintage Airstream travel trailer restoration, repair, sale, and rental business called NomadMotorLodge.com. And he has years of experience being a do-it-yourselfer when it comes to buying used RVs and restoring them himself. He's most excellent at that. So, Michael, welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you here today.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, I've checked out your website a little bit, and you've got some pretty sweet Airstreams. I'm not going to lie. I love the names as well. You've got them named. Very classic. I love that. From what I've learned about you so far, though, I kind of feel like maybe we ought to call this like This Old RV Show.
Probably. Not a bad.
Yeah. I was like, see what you're doing with those. You'll tell us more about this as we go on, but seeing what you've chosen to restore Airstreams as a do-it-yourselfer. And you'll share with us why as we get going. But I was looking at some of those and your desire to do original work, right, versus upgrading to a lot of the newer amenities and things. Just very classic, very original, very cool. So again, welcome to the show. Just fill us in, man. How long have you been an RVer, and what got you into restoring RVs?
I've been into them since I was a kid, but I never actually bought one until 2010. A lot of, wishing and hoping, and then finally deciding that I either needed to do it or not do it. And the story was I just found an old Airstream on Airstream Classified and got really lucky, had a great seller, and drove 8 hours up to New Hampshire and picked this thing up. And never towed anything in my life. And the guy hooked it up to my truck, which luckily I had the right kind of truck. Hooked it up to my truck and said, just make your turns wide. And away I went. So then that led to working on that. And because of my architectural background, I was really curious about Airstreams for years. And I did some work on this one, worked with a restorer in Baltimore, Maryland, and that got me going. And I went out and bought another one, which was a complete wreck in the middle of nowhere in Illinois, and dragged that sucker on its original tires back to DC in the middle of the night. Ended up 4 tires. Out of 4 tires, I had 1 left by the time I got the thing home. But anyways, then spent 9 months restoring it. And with the restorer in his shop every day, and then bought the 3rd, did lots of work on that one, and now I don't even know what number we're up to, but we have 20 total right now. Yeah,
that is fantastic.
And they're not all Airstreams. Airstream is certainly the iconic brand, but in working with a really, really excellent, for lack of a better word, a picker that I work with in southern New Mexico, I've been able to come across and purchase really some of the rarest of the rare vintage 50s and early 60s travel trailers that exist. I mean, the collection is quite impressive.
That's very cool. And you'll have to, as we get to the end of the show here, give you an opportunity to tell us more about where folks can find you, and how they can connect with you if they're interested in renting, taking advantage of some of those. So we'll definitely hit that. But just for those of you listening out there, as we get toward the end of the show, we're also going to have some resources that we'll make available to you guys, as far as some checklists for buying used RVs. If you're thinking of buying one, or thinking of buying and restoring, we'll also have some more resources that I'm sure Michael can give us that to point to some restoring ideas and websites online too that would help folks, and as well as I mentioned his contact information. So as we get to the end of the show, we'll be looking for those checklists. I know we've had hundreds of folks on RVingPlanet.com that have already taken advantage of those checklists, and we get good results. People emailing back in saying, "Man, I'm so glad I used your checklist and didn't buy that one. that's what we hear. So take advantage of those checklists and we get to the end, but we got a ways to go before we get there. So if someone's, how do I say this, Michael? So if someone's thinking about buying a used RV, whether they're going to restore or not, it's a little different. So you've kind of done, obviously the restoration method, the way you've kind of done that. But if someone's thinking about buying a used RV, what are some of the things off the top of your head, things in your experience that you could share that like, hey, just really pay attention to these things? And then just, what do you have for us?
Well, I mean, water is the most corrosive element known to man. And most people don't realize, they don't think of water as being such a bad thing, but it's actually really, really probably the number one thing that I've seen anyways that damages trailers. They're outside all the time. And because of lack of maintenance, that's just generally what happens with these kinds of objects. They start to leak, or bad manufacturing can be another reason, or age. The original sealants fail after a certain period of time, and you end up with water infiltrating the structural system of the trailer and causing lots of damage that you can't see a lot of times. It's really difficult to understand where the water goes and how it gets in and all this kind of stuff. So I always look, if I see silicone, I mean the clear silicone used to seal an aluminum skin trailer, and that can be a wood framed or a steel frame or a aluminum frame, structural frame trailer, it's leaking, because no one is going to put that kind of material on the outside of a trailer unless there's a problem. And even in modern construction, silicone is not the right material to use, but that's what people do because they don't know any better. So that's the first thing I would be like thinking to myself, there's silicone on every single window. I guess there's probably water coming in.
Yeah, no, I get that for sure, man.
And I think the other thing is, if everything has a lifespan. We do, materials do, nothing lasts forever. So when you look at manufactured things that are manufactured, even 20 years ago, the material technologies have changed so much that some materials last a lot longer than they used to, but some materials from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they just don't have a lifespan. They were never intended to last 50, 60, 70 years. They were only intended to last the lifespan of the assumed lifespan of the object or the trailer or the motorhome. So, and that's rubbers and plastics, sealants, all those things tend to decay really quickly. And so you really have to be mindful of the fact that, is there a way to replace those things? Is there an easy way and an inexpensive way to replace just a simple window gasket? Is the gasket even made anymore? A real common problem with 70s Airstreams, for example, is they have a double glazed window that's sort of up in the ceiling on the trailers, called a Vista window. It's what most people call. I don't have any experience with them firsthand, but I've read story after story after story about there's no way to take this window apart without breaking one of the panes of glass. There's no insert made to fit this thing. Everything you do to it, you have to do yourself.
Right.
It requires being very inventive.
Interesting. So, I mean, obviously you've had experience with the Airstreams and the most of the aluminum or steel construction, but I mean, it sounds to me like what you're sharing with us is that regardless of the RV, if you're buying something new, you're checking for water damage for sure, right? Yeah. And those indicators of, sealant where sealant may not be supposed to be, kind of thing, or maybe too much. I know they use, it's not uncommon at all on the modern trailers to use silicone around things to seal as a maintenance procedure. But if there's a lot of silicone on there, and that idea, right, if you see a whole bunch of stuff where it shouldn't be.
Yeah, but the whole industry around sealants, 3M and That's the one I use primarily 3M products, not to put a plug to them, and Tempro
Yeah.
is another. But anyways, they make sealants and adhesives specifically for the RV industry. And silicone, there may be silicones used, but the silicone you buy at Home Depot or Lowe's
That's
is
not the
not
one to
the
use.
same stuff. So
Yeah.
you got to be.
So what would you suggest someone that you know, even if there's not silicone being used,
Yeah.
or that you go to look at a used RV and things look good, would you suggest some type of maintenance from a perspective of, and where do they go to find these products that you're talking about per se? Do they need to go to a dealer? Can they find them online? I mean, what would you suggest?
I go to Vintage Trailer Supply is a great resource.
Okay.
They're in in Vermont and New Mexico, and they supply, the tried and true known products that work for this kind of thing. And they're a great resource because they have a huge knowledge base about all kinds of trailers from all different, lots of different eras, not as narrowly focused as I tend to be. But and then there's lots of information online too. Obviously, that there's a
you can and when you read it, you can believe everything you read too, right?
from Vintage Trailer Supply.
Oh, from the internet, right? Just generally.
No.
No, right? No, right? There's so much misinformation.
There really is. Yes, there really is. And there's even within, and I hate to say this, but within some of the forums, like Airstream forums, you get a lot of competing
opinion.
Opinion, and and there's a right and a wrong way for everything, pretty much, when it comes to how you tackle a project like this. But one of the other things I didn't want to pass by, that you can really tell a trailer is not a good candidate, is if you open the door and you smell anything that smells weird. And because mold grows in these things too, and that's another really big problem. And then the third thing is, of course, is rodents. There's squirrels, raccoons, mice of every kind and creation, birds. They love to get inside of them. And once they infiltrate the sort of system of the trailer, they're in everything.
Right.
And you're, and the thing's toast. So it's just, you can tell when a trailer's never had a mouse in it. You really can. It's a completely different. And I've bought trailers that are 60 years old that have never had a mouse in them. And I prove it by taking the thing apart and finding out that I'm absolutely right. There's never been a mouse in it because there's no trace whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, the rodents are definitely a common issue. A lot of times, if someone's looking to buy a used RV and they pull up to the house and it's sitting in the side yard with grass growing up so high, you have to, get a sickle to get to the front door. And I mean, even those simple things like that just shows you that it's not well taken care of.
Right.
And, they weren't paying attention, and just, I mean, you can ask simple. I know this sounds really crazy. We have an RV and it's in our backyard, and we had a cat we've owned a couple different RVs, and they're more modern ones. We've bought new.
Yep.
And so we've had a cat, just an outdoor garage kind of cat, for a long time. And a year ago, he ran away or disappeared, or whatever cats do when they don't come to eat anymore, right? So that last summer, spring, I realized I went out to RV. I check it pretty frequently, and went out there and went inside, and I didn't smell anything, but I just felt like something was kind of not right. I don't know. And I checked a little bit, found a couple mouse droppings, got some traps in there. Didn't have a real problem, but we got another cat last fall, and I've been checking the RV, man, no mice.
No mice.
So, if you pull up and someone's got their RV in the side yard and they have an outdoor cat, that's a bonus. I mean, there's silly things you don't think about, but
yeah, that's true.
So if someone's going to buy a used RV, whether they're going to restore it, it's a whole restoration project, or whether it's kind of a do-it-yourselfer, maybe fix-it-upper, they're thinking about doing that. What are some things you would kind of use as confirmation to someone that, okay, you're a good candidate to fix up your own RV, or you're not?
I'm always surprised by the, determination is a lot of what it takes to conquer these things. There's so much information, in a million different sources online for how to do things. I'm always, really quite surprised by people's capabilities. So I would never say that you're not a candidate just because you've never tackled a construction, something where you're building with tools. I would say be careful and learn how to use a tool before you actually embark on using it. But
Sure.
it's a pretty easy to learn. What I think people don't recognize is that they'll purchase, run out, see, oh my God, I fell in love with this thing, and drag it to their house without having really thought through, well, I got to take it, if I have to take it apart, do I have the space to do that? Am I going to be working outside? Do I have to worry about weather? And that list, do I have a place to set up a mini workshop or a wood shop? Or, and I think and I've seen this a million times, people will buy these trailers, any kind of trailer, it doesn't really matter, new or old, and start, it's very easy to take them apart, and it's not easy to put them back together. And then they end up with this thing sitting in their yard, and they've spent a fortune on it. It's in pieces. Nobody wants it. Even if it's vintage, nobody wants it. And they end up selling it for a gigantic loss, being really depressed because they took on too much. That's really, I think you have to be careful on what you buy, make sure that it's not a candidate for complete take apart and rebuild, that it actually is sound and can be used the way it is, and that you're doing a cosmetic renovation too, which, is much easier to do.
Sure.
Or get yourself into something that you really can handle. It's really what it's about, I think. And the finances, it's not cheap to do this. That is the worst pitfall everyone makes, myself included. They are not cheap to do. You're basically building a little house.
Most people are familiar with, building a house or restoring a house or something like that. An RV is a house on wheels.
Yep.
It's different, obviously, in the sense of how it's constructed and put together and how the components are put together. But is it similar to that you've experienced, of that remodeling or updating a house as an RV? Is it the person that's comfortable, going and redoing their staircase or putting a new floor in their house? Even if they're capable, what might be some challenges? You mentioned some things about space and time and tools and things like that, I guess. So maybe that did cover that, but would that person be a good candidate? Do you think, or?
Yeah, I think so. What I think is kind of funny, I see this all the time on various Instagram feeds or pages that I follow. People tend to think that, well, just a wild example, not anyone in particular. I'm a carpenter. So I'm going to take my super lightweight aluminum frame and skin travel trailer from the 1960s, and I'm going to put the entire interior in old barnwood, for example. And I'm going to add another 1,000 pounds of material to this thing. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to take that really slick aluminum skinned bathroom, wet bath, that has a super lightweight toilet in it and a super lightweight sink, all integrated together as a component. And I'm going to change that, and I'm going to put in little tiny tiles, and I'm going to put in a thermostatically controlled faucets or diverters on the shower, and I'm going to put in a big composting toilet. I'm going to do all these crazy things. Big, vessel, bowl, sink, and
sure.
I look at that stuff and I go, well, that's great in a house, and it's not great in a trailer, because they weren't designed. They were designed to carry a load, which was a transient load, but they weren't designed to carry all this heavy stuff.
Right.
And they certainly weren't designed to have tile put in them, because it's just going to pop off. I mean, as you're driving down the road, it's just going to fall apart.
Yeah.
So I see that kind of stuff and I just sort of scratch my head and wonder, but that comes from someone who just doesn't realize that they don't translate 100%. What you do in your house doesn't really translate. What you see that reminds you of your house in a travel trailer or in a motorhome is really something very different. Behind it is a very slender supporting frame for cabinetry a lot of times, really efficient plumbing layouts, really lightweight, everything, because it's all about efficiency. It's not about, let's make this thing as heavy as we possibly can. But for me, the whole tiny house movement makes no sense. What are these people thinking? Making 16.
Be careful, you're going to offend a lot of people watching this video.
No, I don't mean to, but I just like.
You know how many people watch tiny house shows, man? They're all over the place. It's crazy.
I know. But the original tiny house are these darn trailers, and I just know they're so much better designed than any of the tiny house things I've seen. I watch all the shows too. So.
That's funny. That's awesome. So just I mentioned a little earlier, we were going to tell you about some resources. Just want to mention we do have some. Again, they'll be in the show notes, but we do have some used RV checklists. We have specific ones for motorhomes, travel trailers, fifth wheels, and small pop-up tent camping trailers for you guys listening and watching out there. And I encourage you to take advantage of those. They just really, truly help when you're going to buy that used RV and you just want to confirm that it covers things like, Michael said, odor and, sealant and damage on the roof and cracks. And you just want to really make sure, because man, you buy something, think you're getting a good deal, you get it home, and all of a sudden you got a $2,000, roof repair or more, and it's like, ooh, that's not what I was expecting. So, really encourage you guys to take advantage of those checklists down there. Michael, we're going to finish up here, but I'm going to give you kind of the last word. What final advice do you have for someone kind of looking to get into RV that might need some fixing? What would be like? You mentioned quite a few things. Maybe you repeat one. Maybe you got something tucked away down there that you're like, oh yeah. Final advice, someone looking to buy an RV that they're going to kind of fix up or get roadworthy for themselves.
I think it's important to, really educate yourself, read up on what your lifestyle is going to be most suited to. The whole vintage world is certainly very appealing and there's a lot of nostalgia and all that, but it's a very different sort of way of traveling and using. I highly recommend that folks, when they, with Outdoorsy, you can rent. With RV Share, you can rent. Go out and rent a bunch of different kinds of trailers. There's hundreds and hundreds of different kinds. Rent an old one, rent a new one, and really know what is going to work for you. And before you embark on a big project, even if you think you found the greatest deal on earth, make sure you understand what the skill levels are that are going to be needed and what the costs are for, replacing systems. And I'll tell you, sort of last thing, if you buy any kind of a trailer from the 1950s or the 1960s, it is going to need to be completely rebuilt from the ground up, no matter what, unless it was kept in a garage its entire life. And even those will still need some amount of work. But I have yet to find one example of a vintage trailer that I've come across, and I've come across hundreds and bought 20 that didn't need to be taken completely apart and rebuilt.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Again, I appreciate you coming on the show today. And I know that, whether folks are thinking about buying something really old and restoring it, or they're thinking of buying something, relatively newer that's used, the tips you gave us today are going to be, super helpful for everybody. So just give us a quick update on kind of what you have coming up. I know you said you have 20. I looked at your website there, which is NomadMotorLodge.com. We'll have that link in the footnotes here as well. And saw some cool, restorations you have for rent on there. Just give us a quick update on what you got going on, what's coming up, and how folks can get a hold of you.
Okay, we have some trailers to rent in the East Coast. I'm moving the restoration business to New Mexico starting in May. We've purchased property in the Jemez Mountains, which is about a 45, 50-minute drive from either Santa Fe or Albuquerque.
Okay.
We're setting up a sort of camp there where people can rent trailers from us or come and visit if they want.
Nice.
We also purchased a cafe, which is going to work in conjunction with our campsite so that we can host events for doing a big corporate thing this summer and a wedding so far.
Oh, fun.
And as well, we do trip planning.
Okay.
So if someone has an interest in touring the Southwest in a travel trailer, we have the trailers, we have the trucks, we have the knowledge of the area to sort of set you out on an amazing journey. We can put together just about anything.
Nice.
And the website's the best way to get a hold of us. We do all our rentals are through Outdoorsy,
Okay.
and all that's on the website and pretty self-explanatory.
Well, fantastic. Well, I think everybody, that wraps up the show for today, this episode. And until next time, happy camping, everyone.